Percy Jackson Season 2 just dropped episode 6, and this is already the second to the last episode of this season. This new episode is entitled Nobody Gets the Fleece, which is chapter 15 of the Sea of Monsters book. I covered episodes 1 to 5 in my previous videos, which you guys can check out in my Season 2 reviews playlist, and I'll link it down below for you guys to see. Like my other reviews, I'll be breaking down this episode while giving my thoughts as a book reader. And as always, spoiler warning for the Sea of Monsters book and this new season. And with that, let's get into it. The episode starts with an interesting moment. We see Tyson underwater, and this is our first scene of Tyson after the pretty wild cliffhanger we got from episode 4. Episode 4 ended with the CSS Birmingham flying up into the sky after getting attacked by Skyla and Charybdis. In the following episode, or episode 5, we see Percy and Annabeth after the attack, but we didn't see Tyson at all. So seeing him here in episode 6 is actually our first look at him after a while. Going back to the episode though, Tyson picks up a bracelet, and it's actually the same one Annabeth had in the previous episode. We learned that Annabeth got this from Luke, and Tyson was actually playing with it before, and he even called it Rainbow. If you've read the Sea of Monsters book, then you would know that this is a direct reference to a hippocampus named Rainbow, who was actually Tyson's favorite hippocampus. And just a trivia, the hippocampi were actually the ones that brought Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson to the Princess Andromeda in the book, but as we can see in episode 2, the show changed it up completely. They gave us a random colorful boat, and I guess it's colorful because it also references Rainbow the hippocampi. And if it does, that's actually kind of funny. Because of this moment though, a lot of fans like me thought that the show was going to completely cut out the hippocampi. But this new episode absolutely proved us wrong. We actually got a great look at the hippocampi by the end of the episode, and I was so happy that they kept this moment. And now, back to the episode, Tyson gets saved by Rainbow just like in the book, before we arrive in a pretty cool moment. We see a dream Percy has, and it's actually the first scene we see in the Season 2 official trailer. He's in what I think is the big house in camp, and as he looks around, he suddenly sees Kronos. I can't really play the scene because of copyright, but we see Kronos attack Percy with lightning before Percy wakes up. We later learn that Percy saw Thalia as Kronos, and I want to talk about this. Throughout the Sea of Monsters book, we see glimpses and scenes of Thalia through flashbacks or mentions, and even weird dreams like this. And I think this dream must be a reference to a specific dream Percy had before he and Annabeth arrived at the Sirens. Unlike in the show, the Siren scene didn't happen immediately after Percy and Annabeth escaped Circe's island. Instead, Percy and Annabeth met the Sirens a day after, and the dream I'm talking about happened on the night they left the island. In this dream, it's kind of similar. We see Percy walk in a room, but instead of seeing Kronos in this cloaked version in the show, in the book, we see a sarcophagus, which is exactly what we saw in episode 3 of the show. Percy is terrified of the sarcophagus, but he suddenly sees a girl to his side. This girl is Thalia Grace, and she went over and opened the sarcophagus. This ended up being a very bad idea though, because a golden light engulfed her, and Kronos laughed before Percy woke up. This nightmare is pretty different in the show, but one thing stays the same. It seems like Thalia and Kronos are both involved, and at the same time, Kronos seems to capture Thalia, be it through the golden light in the book, or through looking like Thalia herself in the show. It may be a small moment now, but I think it hints on a lot of things. First, I think it hints on the idea that Annabeth mentioned in the Sea of Monsters. Annabeth tells Percy that she thinks Percy and Thalia are very similar, and that's true. Both are children of the Big Three, and both have their reckless and brave tendencies. Both Thalia and Percy also have hero complexes, and they're fiercely loyal. Although it seems like a good thing on paper, Annabeth points out that Percy and Thalia would either be the best of friends or the worst of enemies, especially given that Thalia and Percy's parents, or Zeus and Poseidon respectfully, hate each other. So, Annabeth points out that Percy and Thalia might grow to hate each other if they met. And I think this idea is hinted on here because Thalia as Kronos hits Percy with lightning, which is Zeus's element, and something Thalia actually attempted to do during a capture the flag sequence in the next book. The second idea that this dream sequence can hint on is the idea that Thalia could be the demigod of the prophecy. This is true because, as I mentioned earlier, Thalia is a child of Zeus who is part of the Big Three gods, and a prophecy foretold that one of their demigod children could either destroy or save Olympus once they turn 16. It also calls back on the idea that Luke mentioned in episode 3. Luke explained that the Thalia he knew for 2 years would join him with Kronos, which is why the show, showed this by combining Thalia and Kronos in this dream. Now, I know, that's a lot of thoughts for just this moment in the episode, but I thought of pointing out my interpretation of it as a longtime fan. After this dream, we eventually get the moment we've all been waiting for, the face-off with Polyphemus the Cyclops. And I had to say, They changed many things from this part of the book, and let's go through it. So the scene starts off with the same premise. Percy and Annabeth went there to save Grover and Clarisse and get the fleece. We even see the man-eating sheep of Polyphemus, and like in the book, Percy and Annabeth do blend in with the sheep so that they could arrive in Polyphemus' lair. From this part of the episode, the first change I noticed was the golden fleece itself. The golden fleece is seen on this tree like in the book, but this was actually a fake, and Grover had to find the real fleece itself. This was a pretty surprising concept to me because, again, this wasn't in the book, but it also solidified how much they changed Polyphemus' character. Instead of the dumb Cyclops we met in the book, we see the smarter Polyphemus who can lure people into traps, so this is a pretty cool detail. After Annabeth realized that it was a trap, Percy falls inside the cave and gets trapped. And then, Annabeth uses her invisibility cap to pretend to be nobody, which is actually just like the book. Annabeth tricks Polyphemus into leaving the cave, but something insane happened. We see Luke arrive on Polyphemus' island, and this absolutely surprised me when I first watched this episode because Luke was never in this scene at all in the book, and I'm not sure what to feel about it here. Luke actually sends an iris message to Annabeth in this episode, and he warns her about just how powerful Polyphemus is. However, nothing could have prepared me for him actually coming to the island itself. But hear me out on this. I think the filmmakers made Luke go to this island because it shows a softer side of Luke, and that's something I think the show is trying to highlight. Luke in the books did not do many things show Luke did so far. In the first season, Luke asked Percy to join Kronos by the end of the 8th episode, but Luke in the book straight up wanted to kill Percy. Like, if you try comparing the two mediums, the show version of Luke is way kinder than the Luke in the books. If Luke in the books saw Annabeth and Polyphemus' island, he would not do anything Luke in the show did now. He would care about her in some way, but I don't think Kronos would have allowed him to interfere the way Luke did in this episode. And let's talk about that. In this episode, Luke is clearly after the golden fleece, and he even falls for the fake one. And then, this is when things get crazy. As Annabeth distracted Polyphemus, Grover managed to find the real golden fleece, and somehow, Polyphemus seemed to sense it. He stopped trying to look for Annabeth, and instead, he went back up to the cave. He was about to move the stone when suddenly, Annabeth wounded him on the foot. And just a side note, I think this is a small reference to the book version of the Cyclops flashback we got from episode 5. This flashback in the book involved Luke and Thalia being kidnapped by Cyclopses, and Annabeth actually tried saving them. She stabbed a Cyclops in the foot with her dagger, which is exactly what she did over here. Also, as seen in episode 4, the show completely changed this up because they made Annabeth be the one who was kidnapped while Thalia had to rescue her. But going back, after Annabeth attacked Polyphemus, Polyphemus knocked Annabeth out, and we see her bleeding with her dagger. I think this is the first time we actually see blood in the show, and Percy's reaction was exactly how I imagined it. He screamed for her, and again, I just know this is going to be another huge scene for a Percabeth edit. I've literally seen so many already after the infamous I burn it all down scene from last week, and honestly, with the rate we're going, Percy is going to give us even more moments moving forward. The Sea of Monsters is a huge step in their relationship, and they would just get closer and closer by the book. Back to the episode though, Polyphemus looked like he was about to attack Percy and the rest, but then Tyson showed up. In the book, Tyson was on the island as well, so I knew he was going to be in the scene, but somehow I was still surprised either way. But what happens next is crazier. Polyphemus and Tyson actually have a fight, and it ends with the two of them literally falling off the cliff. I do remember Polyphemus falling off the cliff at some point in the book, but not like this, and especially not with Tyson. But anyway, the chaos isn't even over yet, because in comes Luke. Luke was nearby Annabeth from outside of the cave, and Percy practically lost it. He begged Luke not to hurt Annabeth, and when Percy said the line, "Don't touch her," I immediately remembered the scene from The Last Olympian. In that moment, Annabeth just got stabbed to protect Percy, and Percy also said this line to everyone in the whole freaking Battle of Manhattan. Like, this is a classic Percabeth moment. So, seeing Percy say it in the same way here because Annabeth got hurt actually gave me chills. I honestly can't prepare myself enough for when we finally see season 5, especially since I know Walker is going to kill it. He is absolutely Percy Jackson to me. But anyway, this is when things get even more intense. Luke tells Percy and the rest that Annabeth was dying, and it was clear they could use the fleece to heal her. However, this is a very risky decision to make because the only reason they needed the fleece in the first place was because Luke poisoned Thalia's tree. Like, this was all Luke's fault. So the question was this: did they trust Luke enough to heal Annabeth with the fleece? Clarisse tries to argue with Percy that they shouldn't give Luke the fleece because he could easily lie about healing Annabeth. Luke could just escape with the fleece, heal Kronos, and end the world forever. Percy couldn't handle the thought of Annabeth dying in front of him, and he begged Clarisse to give him the fleece. And all of this was not in the book at all. In the book, Percy, Annabeth, Grover, Tyson, and Clarisse eventually defeated Polyphemus after tricking him one last time, and they leave the place. They arrive on the beach, and that's when Percy realized that if he went back to camp with the fleece, he'll be hailed the hero, even if this was technically Clarisse's job. In a surprising moment, Percy gives Clarisse the golden fleece, and this is a huge moment in the book. Because, as seen in both the book and the show, Percy and Clarisse always butt heads and didn't get along, so trusting Clarisse to bring the fleece back to camp was a very big leap of trust on Percy's part. This actually eased their rivalry more, and I expected this to happen in the show as well, and we got an even crazier plot. Like, I'm still trying to process what just happened, and I still don't know if I like the show version. I think it's a relatively cool idea though, and immediately calls back to what Percy said in the previous episode. Percy had once told Annabeth that if it came down to saving Olympus or saving her, he'd burn it all down, meaning he'd always pick her over the world. And seeing Percy be confronted by his worst nightmare almost broke him in this moment, which is honestly really accurate to the Percy in the book as well. And like Percy said in episode 5, he chose Annabeth. He gave the fleece to Luke, and as expected, Luke left with the fleece. But surprisingly, he also took Annabeth with him. This, again, never happened in the book, so I honestly don't know what to expect, but I guess we might see Luke trying to recruit Annabeth to his side, because that's pretty much what he did to both Percy and Thalia. But I guess you have to wait and see. The episode ends with a pretty cool cliffhanger. Tyson somehow manages to survive the crash of Polyphemus, and when asked about what happened, Tyson just told him that Polyphemus wouldn't be bothering anyone anymore. And that's just wild. Did Tyson just kill Polyphemus? Like, they just completely brushed it off for some reason. And we don't really know for sure what actually happened, but to be fair, that was the least of Percy's problems here. Instead, they moved on to Percy, Clarisse, Grover, and Tyson being the hippocampi to start moving to Luke's ship to get the golden fleece and save Annabeth. And that's how the episode ends. Honestly, that was an insane yet incredible episode. I think these changes so far are great ways to create excitement and stakes in the story, but I think I prefer the other episodes over this one. I'm rating this an 8.5 out of 10. Pretty good, but I think we could have gotten a bit more stuff. I think we could have seen more of Polyphemus and Tyson's fight before they fell, or actually explain what happened, because I don't think they're going to explain it later on. Aside from this, I think the Luke plotline here is kind of forced. Like, don't get me wrong, I get that it had to lead up to the emotional moment of Annabeth getting kidnapped and the fleece is gone now, but at the same time, I just think we could have had more of a build-up to it. Like, Luke calling Annabeth in an iris message is completely random in this moment. I think they could have added more moments of Luke trying to reach Annabeth in previous episodes, wherein Annabeth always declined, just to add to this moment right here, wherein Luke finally wants to take matters into his own hands. I just think they could have written his character more so that it wouldn't have felt so random. Because, think about it, we last saw Luke in episode 3. That's like 3 episodes away from this new one. So I think that's what they needed here for Luke. They needed more proper build-up. But aside from that though, I absolutely love this episode. Great installment to a great series, and I'll see you guys on the next one. So how about you? What do you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments down below.